What do the 573 federally recognized nations of American Indians and Alaska Natives all have in common? A never-ending need for lawyers. The Frank LaM Native American Presidential Forum held this week in Sioux City, Iowa, at which 11 presidential candidates fielded questions from indigenous elected officials and activists, was a rousing two-day argument for an informed, experienced, compassionate and rational president. Sponsored by Four Directions, the South Dakota-based advocates for Native voting rights, it was also a sobering reminder that the road to equality in the United States is paved with outrage, elbow grease and paperwork. No American citizen should have to drive 100 miles to vote, especially if the roads to a far-flung polling place are maintained by the chronically underfunded Bureau of Indian Affairs. On the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation, 2 people died in July because of a washed-out section of highway on Via Road 3. Janet Davis, of Nevada's Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribal Council, quizzed Marianne Williamson and Bernie Sanders about voting access. She explained that in 2016, her tribe and the Walker River Paiutes won a lawsuit to establish satellite polling places on their reservations. From Pyramid Lake, the county's nearest voting site had been a 96-mile round trip. Ms. Davis happened to be seated on the stage next to Senator Sanders. She told him, "The county told us it was too late to recruit and train poll workers and we told them we could and we did." Senator Sanders patted her arm and smiled, revealing an uncharacteristic split second of what appeared to be actual joy. Ms. Davis asked him, "How will you ensure that all Native Americans on reservations have the same access without having to litigate as we did?" His answer echoed Ms. Williamson's suggestion earlier that morning, that a president who cares will appoint an effective attorney general. Which is true in that an attorney general can prosecute violations of election law, though states and counties generally control polling locations, but the real answer, to paraphrase the letter from Birmingham jail, is that obtaining freedoms is almost always a hassle. All American Indians received full citizenship in 1924, and yet the indigenous people of New Mexico were still suing for suffrage in 1962. In Minnesota, Four Directions and its Native partners were able to negotiate with the state to open satellite polling places on the Red Lake, White Earth and Leech Lake reservations without litigation. Good old Minnesotans, unlike the rest of us, they might actually deserve Amy Klobuchar, but in South Dakota and here in Montana, successfully opening satellite polling places on reservations required legal action. Since the indigenous vote matters particularly in the West and Midwest, Gov. Steve Bullock of Montana, Julian Castro, Mark Charles, a Navajo independent, Bill de Blasio, John Delaney, Kamala Harris, Senator Klobuchar, Senator Sanders, John Sestak, Elizabeth Warren and Ms. Williamson showed up at the forum, or appeared via video chat. Andrew Work Jr., the tribal president of Montana's Fort Belknap Indian Reservation, asserted, "We're not a racial group. We're a political group." Senator Warren has learned that the hard way. She spent the first few seconds of her lively 40-minute time slot reiterating her apology for the Cherokee heritage snafu. "I happen to be an enrolled Cherokee citizen. I was miffed when Senator Warren refused to appear on a Fox News town hall, because voters won't cast a ballot for a candidate who looks down on them, but I'm not offended by the Cherokee thing, which was dumb but not malevolent. I mean, I get it. Every time someone finds out that Ralph Waldo Emerson told Martin Van Buren he read Cherokee newspapers, we're like Frank Sinatra fending off Bobby Soxers. But a calculated, evil genius would not have chosen to glom onto a Bible Belt tribe in a state President Trump won by more than 500,000 votes. A more diabolical Democrat would have feigned being Chippewa." Aaron Payman, chairman of the Sioux Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians, called Senator Warren's proposal to appoint a cabinet-level liaison to Indian country, history in the making, and discussed her presidency as a foregone conclusion. Every Democrat, especially the eventual nominee, should be courting Mr. Payment and his people. Based on his endearing stage presence, this will not be a chore. The largest indigenous nation east of the Mississippi, the Sioux tribe's 44,000 members inhabit the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, a crucial swing state the president won by a mere 10,000 votes. Image Democratic presidential candidate Senator Amy Klobuchar spoke with Harold Frazier, chairman of the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe of South Dakota, at the Native American Presidential Forum. Creditum Hinds Sioux City Journal, the Associated Press. Watched the entire forum via live webcast. The Democrats were collectively impressive, presenting a consistent worldview that's not always obvious in a sometimes discordant primary. Mr. Castro, who gave such a thoughtful presentation, I'm glad he qualified for the next debate, summed up their platform. I believe that everyone counts. I can always tell if someone hasn't spent a lot of time around Indians because they never use that word, which I still like because that's what my two grandfathers, Carlyle and Cicero, called themselves, and it makes Christopher Columbus look incompetent. But the Democrats all professed to respect tribal sovereignty and vowed to honor treaties and legal trust obligations and to consult the nation's leadership on policies affecting their lands and people, often throwing around the magic words government-to-government relationship. The president was invited but did not attend. While his name came up a few times, if you want to cultivate the indigenous vote, never hang a portrait of the architect of Indian removal in the Oval Office. His absence was made palpable by the consistently high-minded discourse. The tribal experts asked candidates substantive, often intricate questions about specific legislation, water safety, infrastructure, health care, immersion language education, the Wounded Knee massacre, and how data collection or lack thereof has compromised justice for this country's more than 5,700 missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. To quote Senator Sanders, "May I be blunt? The president does not possess the knowledge or brain power to credibly respond to any of these queries and crises. Nor would he have had the basic decency of Mayor de Blasio to say that he didn't know the answer to a couple of questions but that he was eager to learn more." I doubt the president has heard of the Indian Child Welfare Act, and if he has, I question whether he would offer the sophisticated analyses of Senator Harris and Governor Bullock on how culturally ignorant judges affect the children the act was designed to protect, with the governor lamenting that most judicial appointees at the highest levels have no exposure or understanding of what Indian country is. That assessment also applies to the president himself, otherwise he wouldn't, as Mr. Heyman put it, repeatedly attack Senator Warren by disparaging one of our Indian hero women. Speaking of, when Deb Haaland, the intriguing Laguna Pueblo citizen who represents New Mexico in the House of Representatives, showed up to introduce Senator Warren. She proclaimed, "I started out as a phone volunteer and now I'm a member of Congress." According to its leader, the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina has 22 homeless Native veterans on a waiting list for housing. The roads on the Cheyenne River Reservation are flooded. But Representative Haaland's grassroots path to power proves that every now and then, this dysfunctional country still works. More from Sarah Vowell. Opinion. Sarah Vowell, this guy got Republicans to vote for a Democrat. July 27, 2019. Opinion. Sarah Vowell, A Coast-to-Coast Marriage of American Railroads. May 22, 2019. Sarah Vowell, a contributing opinion writer, is the author of The Wordy Shipmates and Lafayette in the Somewhat United States. The Times is committed to publishing a diversity of letters to the editor. We'd like to hear what you think about this or any of our articles. Here are some tips. And here's our email, letters@nytimes.com. Follow the New York Times opinion section on Facebook, Twitter, @NightOpinion, and Instagram. Let's block ads. Why?